All right, folks. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're live here, in my own words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, coming to you after the Iron Bowl. Crazy Iron Bowl game that was. Alabama falling 48-45 to the Auburn Tigers at Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn, but coming on here to encourage you, engage you in conversation, fans, and start this off. The number to call into the show, hottest show on the streets right now, we're looking at 334-654-9385. The number to call in. Once again, the number 334-654-9385 to let your voice be heard here on the show. Now, I'll say this. If we can keep this, one call at a time, and I'll try to get to all of your calls as quickly as possible, one call at a time here. Also, I encourage you to check out the chat line here via Touchdown Alabama Magazine. If you have questions, leave those in the chat line. Leave those in the chat line there, questions regarding the Alabama Crimson Tide in the matchup against the Auburn Tigers. But it was crazy matchup over the weekend. I was there, Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn. Unreal. So Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn was unreal. People jumping around, fans storming the field. Missed field goal at the end from Joseph Belovis. Your heart goes out to that young man. He did everything he could to try to make the kick, just doinked it off the upright. But Mac Jones, what a performance by him in the matchup. 335 passing yards, career high. 4 touchdown passes, career high. Oh, he had 2 interceptions, but I don't really put the second one on him. Not necessarily, I don't put the second one on him. The first one was kind of a miscommunication deal between he and Jerry Jeudy. Now, the second one, I would put that more so on Sarkisian than Mac Jones, just due to not the proper play call there. I would have had Alabama line up in the heavy package and run Najee Harris up the middle, 3 to 4 times. And if Auburn was able to stop that, then Auburn stopped it. They were just the better team on that possession, but that's what I would have done. Ran that heavy package, but a great game from Najee Harris, who had over 100 yards rushing, 146 to be exact. His 5th 100-yard performance of the season, had 1 touchdown, averaged 5.4 yards a carry. And then Jalen Waddle. How about Waddle Baby in the building? 4 catches, 98 yards, 3 touchdowns. The brother could not be stopped. Out of Houston, Texas, in the kick return game, 3 returns for 132 yards, including a 98-yard burst to the house. But as always, folks, the number to call to be a part of the conversations. We are live streaming this to you via YouTube. 334-654-9385. 334-654-9385 to be a part of, in my own words, calling in hottest show in the streets, hottest ticket in the streets in terms of debate, discussion, and conversation on your Alabama Crimson Tide. Show is always brought to you by Title Towel, WhitwillSports.com. Check out a couple or be able to purchase those towels today. We are also brought to you by Utero Hibachi. Our great friends at Utero Hibachi, located inside the University Mall Food Court in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You're craving delicious sushi, hibachi, and takeout. Check those guys out. Delivery can also be found on Crimson To Go and Waiter. Just tell the good folks at Utero Hibachi that the guys at Touchdown Alabama Magazine sent you. We already got some questions here in the queue, and this one comes from Scott McGill, who says Waddle something else for Bama. He says Waddle something else how far Bama gonna fall. I guess that question being in terms of the poll here, we'll see in the poll or in the college football playoff rankings come on Tuesday, but Jalen Waddle Scott, definitely something else. I mean, the kid in the game against Auburn, as I mentioned, over 98 yards receiving, 132 kick return yards, 4 total touchdowns. A guy that it sucks losing Smitty, Ruggs, and Judy after this year to the NFL, but knowing the potential that Jalen Waddle has and knowing the speed, the acceleration, the playmaking abilities that he gives you, Jalen Waddle, very special for next season, especially with you've got Slade Bolden, Tyrell Shavers, John Mechie, Xavier Williams, along with other guys coming in the 2020 class that are going to be huge. So Jalen Waddle, the big deal there. So that comes from Jalen Waddle. Also, a question from my man, Willie Beeman. Willie Beeman wishing me a good evening. Good evening to you, Willie Beeman. Happy to have you here, brother. A question coming in from King J. King J that says, wants to know about the new DC, but we actually have a call-in queue. We actually have a call-in queue, and we're going to get this call queued in right now. Got a call-in queue here. Hang on just one moment, caller. Hold on just one moment here. Trying to maneuver this call. Okay. Well, as we're trying to get the call here we go. We got a caller in the queue. You are on In My Own Words, man. How you feeling?
I'm doing all right, Stephen. How about you?
Doing just fine, man. What's on your mind today? What's on your mind today?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit probably the same as a lot of other Bama fans. Just a little concerned about how the season is kind of ending. I know we still got one more game left, but my question to you is what do you think that Nick Saban's going to do about the defense and Pete Golden, especially? I'm seeing a lot of things on social media, and just kind of want to get your thoughts on that. I'll hang up and listen to you there.
All right, then. Well, the thoughts here on the defense, man, and Pete Golden, and I appreciate the call, by the way. Right now, what I'm hearing right now is, in terms of the defense, Pete Golding, and I will admit I was wrong on this one. I'll admit that. I thought that, when Pete Golding first came in, he sounded excited, he looked excited, he talked excited, he wanted to be here, and especially after you've had guys to come and go, and Nick Saban was kind of tired of, national media beating him over the head about, Alabama, no continuity, no family atmosphere, this and that, coaches coming and going, and he wanted it for Pete Golding to be the guy. I wanted Pete Golding to be the guy, but just not meant to be. Just the program, this stage, the pressure of being at Alabama, too much for him at this point. I don't necessarily see him sticking around to the early signing period, which is December 16th, or even after that. I'll put it like this. By the time spring ball rolls around, I don't see Pete Golding in Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama. There is a short list of coaches that Nick Saban is looking at in terms of being the DC. Of course, we've seen the day that Charlie Strong has become a big candidate now after he was let go at South Florida. There's still Will Muschamp, depending on what South Carolina does with him, if they fire him or not, but he's an option. There is a defensive assistant on the New England Patriots staff that Saban could look at. But there's a defensive assistant on Bill Belichick's staff in New England that can be looked at. There's also Bob Shoop down in Mississippi State, and there's a potential co-DC down there at Clemson, but Alabama can look at as well. So there's a couple of names there, a few names there that are on Saban's list. But to me, I just do not see Pete Golding being retained. I was wrong on that one. I admit to being wrong on that one. Really thought that the guy was going to do something special, but just too much for him. We got some other questions here from the queue, and this one comes from South House Production. South House Production saying, we need a nightmare defense again. I agree with you on that, South House. We do need one. But for Alabama, it starts with getting a defensive coordinator and a proven one. This one comes from DR on the chat line. Says, compare the way Kirby Smart coached the defense and then find me any clip of Pete Golding coach the defense or signaling we need to make an offer to Gene Chizik. He is available if he's available. Thoughts? Well, DR, I like Chizik. I mean, I thought that Chizik did a decent job at Auburn. Now, I think he's more so inclined to his job in commentary with the SEC Network, but that's an interesting thought there. Let's see here. Scott McGill, DC from the NFL. There you go. Yes, Scott, the New England Patriots guy, defensive assistant, he has shown interest. He has thrown his name in the hat. We've got Vodka Drinker here on YouTube in the chat line. But before we get to him, we got another call in queue, so we're going to take this call here. All right, welcome into In My Own Words, the podcast. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Steven, how you doing? I'm
doing fantastic, and yourself?
Okay, listen, I'm calling. I wanted to find out if you think that the Ty Perine, will he be able to do field goals?
That's a good question. I like Perine. I really do. I remember I spoke with his coach at Prattville, and the funny story is Ty Perine actually grew up an hour west of me in Prattville. So the guy in high school made quite a couple of game-winning kicks, including a 50-yard game winner to beat Stanhope Elmore. Pretty good powerhouse there. So he's got the leg to make field goals. He's got the leg to make field goals. He's got the leg to make kicks. So very impressed with what he can be able to do and what he can be able to give in that aspect. Did a great job punting the ball this season. Averaged 44.6 yards a boot. Averaged over 40 yards a kick in the game against Auburn. So I think Ty Perine can handle kicks. But we definitely appreciate that call coming through. But I certainly believe that Ty Perine can handle kicks here. We continue with the calls here in the queue. Going back to Vodka Drinker here. Can we get a coach that can teach tackling? This is the worst tackling team I've seen. It don't matter the scheme when you can't tackle. Well, that goes back to hand strength, and that actually goes back to strength and conditioning to me. Where Scott Cochran is concerned, we have seen him do the whole power clean and bench press and squats, and that's all fine and dandy. That's all cute. But where Alabama has excelled at in terms of winning championships is the hand strength as far as tackling. I have seen guys in years past that were just able to snatch guys down, just pull them and snatch them down because of how strong their hands were. So in the same like as that is in teaching as far as coaching guys, that goes more so into also the strength and conditioning of Scott Cochran. He's got to get back to teaching these guys to be conditioned in the lower body and be conditioned with their hands in terms of getting the hands strong, wrapping up, snatching guys down, and making them a tackle. So that's the idea there, Vodka Drinker, in terms of teaching that tackling. We go here with J. Cole. J. Cole, Alabama about to be on top next year. Can't wait for next season. Well, J. Cole, you got the right mindset, man. For Alabama and Nick Saban, it starts with getting the coaches in here that understand what the Bama football program means. Number one, getting the coordinator in. I've already listed those names. Charlie Strong is one. Will Muschamp is one. Bob Shoop is one. DC, or defensive assistant at the New England Patriots, that's one. My heart really wanted Jimmy Lake. Unfortunately, Chris Peterson decided to step down at Washington, and Jimmy Lake is taking on that job. But Alabama, it starts with getting the defensive coordinator in, getting some coaches in that understand the Bama product, and then also getting back to recruiting the players that understand this, that understand the state, that understand the Iron Bowl rivalry, that understand Bama. I get it. You want to get the 4- and 5-star kids, and you have to get those. But at the end of the day, it's also about getting the players that understand the Bama mindset. You got to understand that mindset. Going back now to at South House Productions, but before we continue, taking another call right now from the call line. Good evening. You're on In My Own Words, the podcast. Calling. What's on your mind tonight?
Hello, Stephen Smith. This is Crystal Smith from Phoenix, Arizona, and I got a question for you, sir.
What's your question tonight, Crystal from Phoenix, Arizona?
Do you think Tua is going to go pro?
Well, Crystal, that's a good question. Tua's got a lot of options to play with. He can come back and rehab his body and get that degree and not necessarily play. If he really rehabs well, and we know the warrior mindset that Tua has, if he rehabs well and is able to get his body to where he could potentially, maybe possibly play this season, there's that. But I honestly believe he'll talk to his family, he'll talk to Coach Saban, but I honestly believe Tua Tagovailoa is going to fill out that paperwork for the NFL, and I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to declare for the draft. I think he'll fill out that paperwork. He'll declare for the draft. I believe he'll stick around at Alabama to rehab his body, just seeing how the athletic facilities with Dr. Kane, Dr. Andrews, Jeff Allen, and that incredible staff will get him back to 100%. But I wholeheartedly believe, Crystal, that Tua will fill out that paperwork and declare for the draft. We'd like to thank Crystal from Phoenix, Arizona, dropping in that question here on Tua. Let's see here. Going back to, we got J. Cole here. Do you think Mac Jones will start next year or someone else? Good question there from J. Cole. Mac Jones has experience. He's gotten some experience this year playing in some games against Tennessee, against Arkansas, against Mississippi State, against Western Carolina. Of course, he showed in the Iron Bowl he's got heart, he's got toughness, career high 335 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes. So I think he's got the ability to start. It'll come down to how quickly does Bryce Young, should he sign at a Mater Dei High School in Los Angeles, California, how quickly does Bryce Young pick up the offensive system? That's number one. And how quickly can he impact or affect the players around him? That's number two. If Bryce Young comes in here and it's a slight struggle with him, expect Mac Jones to stick around because he becomes that voice in the locker room. But it comes down, J. Cole, to how quickly does Bryce Young pick everything up. How quickly does he pick everything up? Now we got Willie Beeman that says, I really wanted Pete Golding to succeed, but I think he was in over his head. Willie Beeman, I agree with you. And I wanted Pete Golding badly. I really did. I mean, to me, I felt like Nick Saban wanted Pete Golding badly. I felt like Saban, in his mind, felt like I've got a diamond in the rough, but a real diamond here. If I can put him around some experience, if I can kind of mask some of the weaknesses, and I believe that's the reason why the hires of Sal Sunseri, Charles Kelly, and Brian Baker were made. Putting some experience around Golding, try to mask some of those weaknesses, try to see if he could have the next Kirby Smart on his hands, but just did not work the way he wanted it to work, man. Just did not work the way that fans envisioned or the way that fans want to see it play out here. Going back to at South House Productions here. South House Productions asking me, do you have any ideas on who we might play in the bowl game? Texas, Oklahoma, or Wisconsin? Man, I have no idea. but I'm looking at it now. I have no idea. I have seen some projections, though. I've seen the Citrus Bowl for Alabama. I've seen the Goodyear Cotton Bowl for Alabama. And phone lines blowing up, folks. We go to this caller. We go to this caller right now. We go to the caller right now in the queue. Welcome into In My Own Words. What's on your mind? Welcome to In My Own Words. Well, as that caller tries to make itself back in the queue here, going back to the thought from South House Productions, I've seen some projections of the Citrus Bowl. I've seen some projections of the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. We'll see. We'll see which one happens to be the one that Alabama gets in here. Let's see. This one from, hold on here. Oh, here we go. This one from Nick Saban Jr. that says, I feel like the kids do not trust the process anymore. If they're starting right away, they are quick to transfer. They are not displaying in the class. Hold on here. Let me read that question again. This comes from Nick Saban Jr. I feel like the kids do not trust the process anymore. But they don't trust the process anymore. If they are starting right away, they are quick. If they're not starting right away, they are quick to transfer. They are not display in the class, and they want to shine right away. I can see that. I can see that from different angles here in terms of not trusting the process, and in this day and age, it's the idea of instant gratification. It's instant gratification, and if you're not immediately the guy, and because of how advanced the transfer portal is, how accessible the transfer portal is, and you can easily find the quick way out. I feel like nowadays people are not prone to battling things out. People are not prone to having that competition. They want the easy way out now. And if you're not starting right away, if you're not immediately the guy, if you're not immediately getting attended to, then you're going to find that first avenue out. And the best way, in terms of Nick Saban to handle this is continue to pound home, the kids that did that hard work. Continue to pound home Levi Wallace, Josh Jacobs, guys that were not first-year starters. Anthony Averett, another one. Guys that were not first-year starters, but they found a way to stay the course and continue, to work here. Willie Beeman continues with the questions of, I think Mac will start next year, but those turnovers he had were awful in the Iron Bowl. Willie, I didn't like the turnovers in the Iron Bowl either, Willie, but at the same time, the first one I put on miscommunication between he and Judy and the crowd noise that was at Jordan-Hare. The second pick, I put that more so on Sark. I'm putting the heavy package on the field in goal line, and I'm running Najee Harris 4 times. And if you can stop Najee Harris 4 times, then that's just great on you. If you can stop Najee Harris in this heavy package 4 times, then you are the better team on that possession, and you deserve to take the ball to start off at the 1-yard line. That second pick, I do not put on Mac Jones. Now, he could have thrown the ball in the dirt, yes. He could have thrown the ball away, yes. But that play right there, I solely put on the shoulders of Steve Sarkisian. You line Mac Jones, you line Najee Harris up in the heavy package. You run the heavy package 4 straight times. They stop that, that's good on them. They can't stop that, then you score a touchdown off that. So I don't put that on Mac Jones. I put that solely on Steve Sarkisian and not running the heavy package here. Let's get to some more questions. DR comes back with Saban's contract expires in 2021. Do you think his contract will be renewed? Our recruiting class isn't number 1 this year. We're currently 4th. Let's see here. Saban's contract being renewed. That goes back to how long does Saban want to be here? When you look at Nick Saban, DR, he still has to fight. Now, he's sort of at a crossroad right now just due to he's made some missteps in coaching hires. He's made some missteps in terms of recruiting. If Alabama would have landed Nakobe Dean at linebacker, if it would have landed Henry Toronto at linebacker, the situation could have been a lot different. So he's made some missteps in coaching hires. He's made some missteps in recruiting that he's got to get rectified, and he's getting it rectified this offseason. So I still think Coach Saban's got a shot here with his 2020 class, but my concern is the 2021 class due to all of the in-state talent coming in where that class is concerned, because in that class, you got a lot of guys from the state of Alabama that understand the Iron Bowl. They know the rivalry. They get the rivalry. They understand how big, how key that matchup is, and just how important Alabama football is and how many people are invested in it. So I look at that 2021 class is the big one for Saban. 2020 is huge, but that 2021 class is the big one for Nick Saban, the 2021 class. Let's see here. We got another one in the queue here from Randall Gardner. Randall Gardner asks, Alabama just go through a lot of freshmen. We just lost a lot of key players this year at the wrong time, and it's hard to replace key players with new ones so fast. And then at Gucci Road Tide rolls in with, Steven, do you think the refs robbed Bama in the LSU and Auburn game? Too many missed calls? Was it a conspiracy that kept us out? Going back to Gardner's question first, Gardner, I agree. There were players that were injured before the season even started. When you look at Dylan Moses and Joshua McMillan, this season becomes a lot different if you have Dylan Moses. You don't tell me Dylan Moses, somebody with experience of the playbook, experience of the field, experience in the locker room, experience around those guys. Dylan Moses, healthy at middle linebacker this year, would have made a huge difference. Would have made a huge difference. And then his running mate, Joshua McMillan, him healthy at weak side linebacker would have made a huge difference. Having a healthy LeBron Ray would have made a huge difference. So you had injuries, most definitely. You had to grow some young players, but at the same time, you got to get the calls communicated on the field. And there were so many moments this season to where Pete Golding, either he couldn't get the call in right or he got the call in and players were confused, and you had to have Xavier McKinney, who I am still burned up that he was not a finalist for the Thorpe Award, but you had Xavier McKinney who had to slide down every time to line people up, to put guys in the right spots, and then he has to step back and make the plays. You had injuries out there. You had calls that were not getting communicated. You had guys that were not in the right spots. You had a lot of confusion on the field in question. So while I agree with the thought Gardner on the injuries that happened, you look at the whole totality of things. It was injuries. It was not getting the play calls in. It was guys not knowing what to do half the time and not knowing how to line up. That falls on, Golding's shoulders there. Going back to Gucci Road Tide and his question there on the conspiracy as far as not getting the calls. Steve Shaw and this coordinator of officials. Steve Shaw and the coordinator of officials, they got work to do. Their phones are getting blown up in Birmingham right now because the call against LSU or in the LSU game, the tight end was out of bounds. That was not a catch. That was illegal touching. And then against Auburn, the officiating staff knew that it was 1 second. The officiating staff knew that should have been a free clock. Free clock, let it go to halftime. Crazy things happen to Jordan Hare. Crazy things happen in Lee County. And that was a free clock. It should have been halftime, go to half. Don't understand how or why they were able to get that 1 second back there on the clock. But Steve Shaw, Greg Sankey, their phones are blowing up here. Their phones are 100% blowing up here. Let's see here. More questions. We got Merry Christmas, Steven from South House Productions. Keep with the videos. Appreciate that, South House Productions. We got here Willie Beeman again. Okay, brother, you would know better than me. The more you feed Najee, the better he gets. Absolutely. Alabama has got to continue feeding Najee Harris. If they would have fed Najee Harris in that goal line situation, you do not have the pick there on Mac Jones. D-Man chimes in. D-Man's got any chance 85% of the juniors on the team come back last year like Clemson? Well, D-Man, that's going to come down to Nick Saban's greatest recruiting tool. Can you convince Xavier McKinney to turn down first-round pick money and come back? Can you convince Dylan Moses, hey, man, we're going to get the coordinator in here. We're going to get the right guy. You're going to have the seats that you were supposed to have this year right here. Can you convince Dylan Moses? Can you get the 6th year of eligibility for Joshua McMillan? That right there comes down to Nick Saban's ultimate task in can he persuade? Can he convince? Can he get those guys to buy in? If you come back, we're going back to the college football playoff. If you come back, I'm going to put you, as Nick Saban, I'm going to put you in the best possible position to have the season and to have the success individually and collectively that we all want to have. So, D-Man, that goes back to Nick Saban. Can he convince them? Can he pull them to come back? But D-Man, definitely appreciate that question coming in. Vivian Martin chimes in with our defense just sucks, but it's the coaches. Vivian, you got to get the right coaches in, correct? You got to get the right coaches in, but I wouldn't go as far as to say the defense completely sucks. Now, with how bad it was this season, Bama still had a chance to pull out some shutouts. Now, you had a chance to shut out Duke because you only gave up 3 points to Duke. You had a chance to shut out Duke, Western Carolina, Southern Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, New Mexico State. I mean, there were some teams that you could have legitimately shut out the season. So I'm not going to go and say the defense completely sucked. It was something that fans aren't used to because as much as you appreciate Tua Tagovailoa and what he does on the offensive side of the football, Alabama fans are blue collar. You guys are defense. It's hard-nosed, kick them, stomp them, shove them. Don't let them move an inch. Don't let them break the ball across the plane. Defense. It doesn't matter what the quarterback play is. We can have the most average to mediocre quarterback, but as long as we got that defense to where they can't cross the Jordan River, we're good. I mean, that's been the mindset for the longest of time where Alabama and fans, you guys, are concerned. It was not a completely just god-awful defense. It was something that you're not used to, but the coaching's got to get better. The coaching's got to get better. The tackling's got to get better. The attitude to want to be the best has got to be there. There are some times you look at certain players, Raekwon Davis, you wondered, where is he? Where's his attitude? Where's the nastiness? Where's the fire? Do we have to recreate the moment where Raekwon Davis got shot in bar 17, got shot in the leg to recreate and get him back going like he was a sophomore year? So, I mean, coaching's got to get better. Some tackling's got to get better. A lot of things just got to get better. A lot of things just have to improve there. Let's see here. Going back once again to Nick Saban Jr., Shane Lee will be good, but I think he needs to lose some weight and get faster. Shane Lee will be good. Shane Lee will be amazing. I feel like the issue of Shane Lee at Nick Saban Jr. is this right here. Shane Lee thinks too much. There are a lot of times where Shane Lee just overcomplicated things. He's thought a little too much. He's got to be able to calm down and just attack the play. Does need to drop about 5 to 10 pounds. He's 246. So if he can get down to if he can drop between 230 and 235, golden. If he can get to 230 to 235, Shane Lee will be golden right there. He thinks a little too much, and I feel like that's where Alakeho excels at. Kaho just goes. Kaho just blows stuff up. Kaho just wants to affect the play. He doesn't think as much at all. He sees it, reacts, gets after it. That's Kaho. And that's kind of, in a way, how Christian Harris is. Sees it, goes, gets to the play. Shane Lee is thinking about, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I cut here? Do I cut there? There are just times where Shane Lee is thinking way too much. Thinking way too much there. Let's see here. We got Gerald Jackboy right here. And Gerald Jackboy says, bring back Bo Davis. I agree with you. Gerald, I agree with you. Bring back Bo Davis. Definitely. Brian Baker, I know he's got over 30-plus years of experience, 19 of those in the NFL, but Bo Davis started the Bama factor. Bo Davis started it with getting Marcel Darius, Terrence Cody, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Dalvin Tomlinson, Damian Square, Jesse Williams. The list goes on. Bo Davis recruited them. Bo Davis coached them. Bo Davis developed them. Bo Davis put him in the NFL. Got to bring that man back. And his show clause, if I'm not mistaken, is over with. So he is definitely out there for fair game. Definitely out there for fair game here. Tim Gardner says he's too slow in reference to Shane Lee. Tim, like I mentioned, he's going to have to drop about 5 to 10 pounds. At least 10. Get down to 236 pounds, and then we can go from there. Get him down to about 236 pounds, Shane Lee, and then we'll see where he can go to from there. We got a call in queue, folks. Got a call in queue. You're in my own words, Colin. What's going on?
Man, what's going on with Steven, man? I've been listening to you, and I'm just gonna be real, man. Like I'm still a little heated over the Mississippi State game when Tua went down, and I know a lot of Alabama fans, they really don't want to hear some of what I have to say about it, but I just understand why in the world Tua. I mean, it just still just every time I think about it, I just get pissed off again. Like, why was Tua in the game after halftime? I mean, I know hindsight's 20/20. You can't predict the future and everything, but Saban, I think we worship him too much as fans, and we don't hold his feet to the fire enough just because he don't want us in championships. That's the standard at Alabama, and he's built the program to have this type of standard. But if he's wrong, we got to be able to say he's wrong too. Like, we can't just sit there and act like he doesn't make any mistakes. He should have never had Tua in the game. Tua should still be playing. I understand our defense ain't what it needs to be, but you can't throw Matt Jones in that situation at Auburn and expect him to not have the mistakes that he made. I mean, I thought he played great, in spite of it, but them 14 points or whatever, we get them 14 points, we win the game, and we might be in the playoffs. Anything can happen. Maybe one of the other three teams, somebody get hurt, and then, we get the luck, and we all of a sudden we figure stuff out on defense, so I'm just a little bit upset. I don't know if you ever really addressed this, Stephen, but I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Because I'm still just a little heated on that, man.
appreciate the call there. Just looking at the situation with Tua getting hurt against Mississippi State. And I've gone back and forth with people on this matter. If God allows you to question him, God's all-knowing. If God allows you to question him, then you should be able to question the decisions that or the moves that Nick Saban is making or putting out there. I mean, I get it. He's won 5 national championships for the Crimson Tide. He should be able to get a pass for the things that he does. But when I looked at that game and Tua got hurt on the side that I was on, to me, even though the hip injury is different from the ankle, still, when you are up 35-7 in that football game, there comes a point where even when the guy's saying, I want to play, and you love Tua's passion, and you love Tua's energy, and you love Tua's toughness, and you love the warrior that's inside of Tua that won't allow him to just sit down. But it comes a point to where when you're the head coach and you got to see beyond the here and now, you got at some point you just got to say, man, if I can clone 100 of you, Tua, I would clone 100 of you. But right now, sit down. Right now, sit down. Let's get Mac Jones in here. Let's get Mac Jones some reps in here. Tua, we can't afford to lose you. You are too valuable. You are too important. You are too needed. If we're going to make the college football playoff, we need to have you in this thing to make the college football playoff. And like I said, I know hindsight, you could never predict that type of an injury, a dislocated hip to happen to Tua. And I've never been one to really just hurl stones at Nick Saban due to what he's done and how he has really elevated this program in the state of Alabama as a whole. But there are moments to, once again, it's never a bad thing to question the decisions that he makes. So I do appreciate that call. In that situation, I wouldn't have played Tua. In that situation, 35-7, game in hand, I pull him out. I put Mac Jones in there. Even coming off, the performance he had against LSU, where he is hobbling, on the ankle, could barely even walk. I would have thoughts of whether to start Tua or not against Mississippi State. But it is what it is. I mean, I look at it like this. If God gives us the ability to question him, you should be able to question some of the moves that Nick Saban puts out there. But I really appreciate the call coming in there on the Tua Tagovailoa ordeal here. We got one from Christopher McLeod. Christopher McLeod writes in, I think Landon Dickerson was very inconsistent this year at center. Inconsistent in terms of penalties and unsportsmanlike plays, yeah. But I felt like at center, most of the time, he actually did a solid job. I mean, in the games he started in, he gave up 1 sack. He gave up 2 quarterback hurries, didn't miss a lot of assignments. Now, once again, he did make some boneheaded penalties. He made some boneheaded mistakes in terms of penalties that put Alabama in some rough situations. I agree with you there. Christopher McLeod. I agree with you there. But in terms of just his play on the field, just his assignments and him being a technician at center, he only gave up 1 sack, and he only gave up a couple of quarterback hurries. I didn't think he was all of that inconsistent. Now, he's got to get better at, not making those mistakes. So there's that in terms of the penalties, but I didn't think he was just totally inconsistent. Let's continue with some more questions here. We got question here in the queue here coming back from D-Man. D-Man writes in, hopefully Shane Lee gets with some track guys to work on his speed, running back and running backs. Well, hold on. Hopefully Shane Lee gets with some track guys to work on speed and agility. There's hope there. There's hope there for Shane Lee. I mean, it goes back to got to drop about 5 to 10 pounds, in my opinion, and just got to stop thinking so much. That's Shane Lee's issue. He's a conscious guy, and Nick Saban wants his players to be conscious. Continuing that thought, D-Man, in just a moment, we got a call coming in. What's going on, caller? You're live here on In My Own Words.
Hey, Stephen, love the show, first of all. But how do you see Alabama stacking up next year? Well, losing so many players. I mean, this year on offense, we're going to be losing Tua and Judy and, just so many wide receivers. How do you see us stacking up next year and trying to replace those guys?
Appreciate the call right there. Looking at offensively, losing to a Tagovailoa first and foremost, especially if he files off this paperwork for the NFL, difficult, but we saw fans, you guys, and of course myself and media personnel saw what Mac Jones did in the Iron Bowl. Even with the 2 turnovers, the man played with heart, he played with grit, he took some hits, got back up, kept slinging the football. Career highs in passing yards and touchdowns. He showed the national stage, I can ball. I can pull the trigger. I got banana clips in this thing. I can go. Mac Jones showed you that. It was not just people saying, oh, we're behind him, or we're backing him, just being all cute. Now, Mac Jones went out there and goes, I can let this thing rip. I can let this thing fall. So, seeing that, moving forward, you like what you have with Mac Jones at quarterback. When you look at the running back perspective, even with Najee Harris more than likely pursuing the draft, you do return Brian Robinson Jr., you do return Trey Sanders after got injured earlier before the season even started, so he'll be back. Keelan got that juice. Robinson, he'll be back. Tre'Davious Thompson will be back. Jerome Ford will be back. So, and also, should Roydell Williams sign in the 2020 class, along with some other guys, barring anybody hitting the transfer portal or leaving out, you're good at running back. At wide receiver, I mentioned this, it will suck losing Judy, Ruggs, Smith, but Jalen Waddle is special. Jalen Waddle has a gear. He's special. And you saw it in the Iron Bowl. You've seen it since he's been here. And I think with Waddle leading this group, you bring back Tyro Shavers, who is 6'6", 214 pounds, out of Louisville, Texas. People have been waiting on this 4-star to break out. Size, big body, physicality, jump ball guy, possession wide receiver, can move the chains on third down. He had one heck of a catch against Western Carolina. So the potential for Tyro Shavers is right there. You bring back John Mechie. In my opinion, Calvin Ridley 2.0. Calvin Ridley's Canadian twin. And in the spring, as y'all remember, went off, was the MVP of the A-Day game. He's got a ton of potential. You look at Xavier Ziggy Williams, young man from the Florida area, a guy that's kind of underrated, but he's got size at 6'1", can make some big-time plays. And then Slade Bolden, he's caught some passes this year. He's thrown a touchdown pass this year. He's even lined up in the Slade cat and converted first downs in critical situations. So Alabama's got receivers returning in 2020 that are going to be some very eye-popping guys to look at. So offensively, I'm not really worried about this team on offense. Defensively, though, is where the coin is. You got to get the coaches in on defense. You got to recruit big-time players, but also players that understand, Bama on defense. And you got to get back to a scheme of really affecting the quarterback, really tackling, just really doing that job. Big D writes in and says, I like Billingsley. I like Jaleel Billingsley myself, Big D. I like Jaleel Billingsley myself. I think he's another guy that's going to be kind of, to me, he'll be O.J. Howard Irv Smith-esque, in my opinion. So, I like Jaleel Billingsley there. Let's see here as we got some more questions coming up in the queue. This one coming back in from Tim Gardner. Our guys play not to get hurt. Looking ahead at the draft, no way around it. Not all of them, but several seasoned guys let us down on effort and leadership. Tim Gardner, I can agree with that. First and foremost, Raekwon Davis is the first guy that fits that bill. I expected a lot from Raekwon, especially when he said, the 2018 year was not his year. He was not the Raekwon Davis he should have been. He kept talking about, I got to get back to the pass rusher, the pass rusher, Ray. Well, didn't see that. Didn't see that from Raekwon Davis. Saw that from Christian Barmore. Didn't see that from Raekwon Davis. So disappointed in that one. Terrell Lewis, though he had a big year, at early parts of the season, you felt like were the injuries still lingering with him. He got it going down the stretch from middle of the way through. I was very disappointed with Shaheem Carter, especially after the year he had last year down the stretch. The brother had 10 pass breakups, 2 picks, both returned for touchdowns, especially how he played in the SEC championship game against Georgia last year, where he was breaking up passes, closing in on receivers. Really thought Shaheem Carter was going to ball this year. Just quiet, just did not have the year. Trayvon Diggs started off, Diggs Island, locking guys down. And then from the LSU game on down, I don't know what happened with Trayvon Diggs. Don't know what happened. Against LSU, Jamar Chase ate him up, and Mississippi State, well, they don't really have any receivers, so do they really count? I mean, Western Carolina, that's Western Carolina, but when against Auburn, they picked on him, Bo Nix to Seth Williams quite a bit. It was rough for Trayvon after the LSU game. LSU game on down. Really rough for Trayvon. Phyllis Burns chimes in with, y'all forget every team is trying to hurt Tua because of injuries. A lot of teams were going at Tua. A lot of teams were going at Tua because they believe Phyllis, he's injury prone. They believe Phyllis that he doesn't have the, toughness or the ability to stay healthy. Now, he's got a whole bunch of toughness. He'll play through pain. He'll play through pain, but when opposition sees that you're injury prone, you get hurt, you can't stay healthy the way you would like to, they keen in on those subtle weaknesses and they attack. They keen in on those weaknesses and they come after you. Willie Beeman, once again, losing Mack Wilson to the draft and losing Dylan Moses to the knee injury really hurt this defense. Yeah. Losing, because I truly felt like if Mack Wilson could have came back, and I understand he wanted to go, he wanted to make his money, he felt like he had done enough, but if Mack Wilson could have came back this year, oh man, first rounder, no doubt, first rounder if Mack Wilson could have came back, because he had the coverage skills on lock. He had the sideline quickness on lock. He had the lateral ability on lock, and man, that dude could hit. Always the one issue with Mack Wilson was the film room, getting the film study down, and just staying off that social media. Those were the two things that really hindered Mack Wilson. Getting it down in the film room and just staying off of that social media. But for the most part, as far as the tackling, the hitting, the lateral quickness, the agility, the ability to create turnovers, Mack had all of that. Wilson had all of that. So if he would have listened, Coach Saban, stayed on for this year, first round pick. First round pick, no doubt about it. Appreciate Willie Beeman for throwing that question in here. Going back now, we got Samuel Williams Wilkinson. My man Sam Williams Samuel William Wilkinson throwing in this question here. This was one of the most undisciplined teams under Coach Saban that I have seen. Yes, injuries hit us bad. Yes, we were starting our freshmen, but where was the evolution of them at the end? Yeah, penalties was terrible. Penalties were terrible. 13 penalties against Auburn for 96 yards. Penalties kept Auburn in the football game. Penalties have kept a lot of opponents that Alabama faced in the football game. Why did the freshmen not evolve as the season went on? That's another good question, and that goes back to not getting the calls on the field effectively from Golding. I don't know if Golding made the call on the field and folks just couldn't remember the call that was made, or Golding didn't communicate it out properly, but the fact that all season Alabama couldn't defend runs, they couldn't fit gaps. All season, the middle of the field was left wide open. All season, we're seeing guys that miss tackles trying to strip the football. All of these small, coachable things were done all season. So that goes back to communication. There was not solid communication from the coaching staff down to the players. Everything starts with communication. And this is the reason why Xavier McKinney was overworked, because he had to do everything. He had to make the calls. He had to come down, push guys up, tap on the butts of different guys, get them lined up, and then he had to jump back quickly to make the play. So lack of communication. That was the biggest thing. Lack of communication. Gotta be able to communicate on the field. Lack of communication here. Let's see here. Here we go. This one comes in from Nathan D here. Unfortunately, I think Golding has the mind, but maybe doesn't have the player relationship. Look how the players responded on D to Kirby. I think the players liked Pete Golding. I just don't think that Golding has small experience, but at Alabama there's an expectation. At Alabama there's a pressure. At Alabama there's a goal, right? The goal for Alabama, and the goal is driven not only by Nick Saban, but it's driven by you guys, the fans. When Nick Saban took this job in 2007, right? January of 2007, he stared at the crowd and he told the crowd, we're going to give you a product that you can be proud of. That's what he said. And for the most part, he stood by that. The last 2 years, this defense has been a product that fans have not been proud of. And it takes a veteran guy to deliver that type of a product, and a guy that understands how big, how major, how marquee Alabama is. And while Pete Golding wanted to be here, while he expressed that he wanted to be here, while he talked as though he wanted to be here, and he really did, y'all, and he really wanted to be here, just did not have that type of experience and was just not ready for this type of atmosphere. Was just not ready for this type of atmosphere. Not ready for it. Just not ready for it. Just not ready for that type of expectation. We're gonna take a couple more questions here. Big D, maybe we can get Charlie Strong for a year or two. I hope so. Because after Jimmy Lake has taken the Washington job, that's the next name. That's the next big name. And Charlie Strong, believe it or not, there are some coaches in life that were meant to be head coaches. that were meant to be CEOs, that were meant for micromanagement, that were meant to handle the whole gamut. There are some people that were meant to be head coaches. From day one, from the moment they popped out the womb, they were meant to be a head coach from the get-go. And then you have some that were meant to be coordinators. They can't handle the whole thing, but they can handle their cubicle. They can handle their respective assignment. And then there are those that were meant to be position coaches. Charlie Strong was meant to be a defensive coordinator. When he was at Florida with Urban Meyer, he had those defenses on go. Those defenses were on go. Those were some of the best defenses in college football, coached by Charlie Strong. Really like him. Let's see here. Tim Wiley, who will be our pass rushers next year? We need 3. Christian Barmore's 1. Mark him down. He's 1. Alabama would get LeBron Ray back, if I'm not mistaken. LeBron Ray would be 2. And then the third one would probably come. The third one would probably come from either somebody in this 2020 class or somebody that returns in the upcoming season next year. I could potentially see Alec Cahill being a pass rusher. I could see it. I could potentially see Cahill being a pass rusher, or Nathan Kennedy. Nathan D just threw a name in there. DeMoy Kennedy. I could see DeMoy Kennedy coming in here, possibly being a pass rusher. And Boygby as well. I like Justin Boygby. Justin Boygby. You know, let me change that. Let me change that. Tim Wiley. Let me change that right now. Let's go Barmore. LeBron Ray, and either Byron Young or Justin Boygby. Barmore, LeBron Ray, and either Justin Boygby or Byron Young. Tim Wiley. Those 3. A mix of those three in terms of pass rushers. The mix of those 3. DeMoy Kennedy's good. Like DeMoy Kennedy, we'll be happy to see what he does upon him getting here. We're going to look at one more, guys. We're going to look at one more question here in the queue. Let's see. We got one big question here for the end here. One big one. Let's see here. Kenny C. Alabama needs to bring back Jim McElwain or Lane Kiffin. We need a new defensive coordinator. I'll say this. I think Steve Sarkisian actually did a good job. I think Sark actually did a good job this year. I mean, even with the injury to Tua, I thought Sark actually did a good job. I thought Sark was fantastic. He had some play calls that had me scratch my head, but I thought Sark did a good job. Now, in terms of defensive coordinator, as I've mentioned, you got the names out there. Charlie Strong, Will Muschamp, depending on what South Carolina does. Bob Shoop at Mississippi State, who's got a lot of experience. There's a defensive assistant on Bill Belichick's staff in New England that's shown interest. And there's also a defensive assistant on Clemson's staff under Brent Venables, who has shown interest. So I like Sark. I really like Sark. I do. I think that the guy is goading that you're trying to get situated. Goading that you gotta get situated. So yeah. Gotta get the goading thing, done. But yeah, so I mean, I thought Sark actually did a pretty good job with what he had to do. Really I'm really intrigued by Ishmael Sopser. Strength is impressive. I like Ishmael Sopser. I like Ish. Ish has got to get his technique down. That's it. Ish, raw strength, raw talent, raw core ability. Just got to get his technique down. Once Ish gets his technique down, he'll be the man. Once Ishmael Sopser gets his technique down, he'll be the man. Nathan D says, Steven, do you keep Golden or hire? I think you got to go with the proven DC here. I think you got to go with the proven DC here. That's what I think. I think you got to go proven DC. I think you've got to go Charlie Strong. If you can't get Charlie Strong, you go Will Muschamp. If South Carolina gets him go. So here it is here. I think you go this direction. I think you go Charlie Strong, Muschamp 2, Shoop 3. No, Strong 1, Muschamp 2, the guy at New England 3, Shoop 4, and the Clemson guy 5. The Clemson guy 5. I think that's the order you go with. The first call you make is to Charlie Strong. That's the first call you make. Whomever you get, though, bring Bo Davis with it. Whomever you get, though, bring Bo Davis with it. Whomever you get, bring Bo Davis. That has to be written within the fine print. You got to bring Bo Davis with him. But Trey Sanders, I like him. Like Trey Sanders. Think with him back, with him healthy, he's going to be an absolute stud. Like Trey Sanders. Like Keegan Robinson. So, I think Nick Saban knows what he's up against. Well, on that recruiting trail, he's got to make these phone calls to these coaches. Got to make the phone call to these coaches. Get the right DC in here. Bring Bo Davis in here. Think Alabama's also possibly looking at making some changes in the defensive secondary. Been hearing some rumors on that. Whether it's Carl Scott or Charles Kelly. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but there's some rumors going around that secondary could begin to look at too for some cleaning of house. But it is what it is. The season did not go in the way that Alabama fans would have liked it to go, but at the end of the day, you look at Alabama football, the run is not over for Nick Saban. He's at a crossroad right now. He's got to hit on DC. He's got to hit on other coaches. But if he can hit on these guys and he can hit on recruiting, Nick Saban will be fine. Nick Saban will be fine. Nick Saban will get back to getting those championships. But, folks, I appreciate it. You being a part of the first live show in my own words, the podcast, streaming to you on YouTube. Hottest show on the streets. Yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. As always, you download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. Get that today for your iPhone, Rockin' Team Apple, Google Play Store if you got the Android phone. If you're an audio person, the podcast options. If your viewing pleasures are, if your audio pleasures are Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Spreaker, iTunes, we got you covered. We got you covered. Check out those podcast audio options. You subscribe to TD, AlabamaMag.com. TD, AlabamaMag.com for all the latest. And Touchdown Alabama Magazine on YouTube. Site over 6,000 subscribers strong. Thanks to you, the fans. As always, you check out our good friends at Utero Hibachi, located inside the University Mall Food Court in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. University Mall Food Court in T-Town. You're looking for a great atmosphere, tremendous, delicious sushi and hibachi and great takeout. What are you waiting for? Give our guys at Utero Hibachi a visit, a view. Walk in there and let them take care of you. Also, delivery for them can be found on Crimson To Go and Waiter. When you walk in, just tell them that the guys at Touchdown Alabama Magazine sent you. So if your thing, delicious sushi, great hibachi, takeout, unbelievable service, the guys, our guys, Utero Hibachi, waiting on you. Located University Mall Food Court in Tuscaloosa. For all of us here at TDA, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith. This has been, in my own words, the live viewing. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in.